Most people have heard of empaths, those individuals who can walk in your room and instantly feel the vibe or pick up on someone's hidden sadness. But if you are a Heyoka, you aren't just picking up on those feelings, you are fundamentally changing the energy of every room you enter. Rooted deeply in Native American tradition, specifically the Lakota, the Heyoka is known as the sacred clown or the mirror. This isn't because you're a joke, but because you use humor, satire, and backward behavior to wake people up. You aren't just sensitive, you are a spiritual disruptor. You are the person who subconsciously forces everyone else to stop pretending and face their own shadows. If you spent your entire life feeling like an outsider, constantly being misunderstood, yet somehow you're the first person everyone runs to when their life is falling apart, you aren't crazy. You are likely a Heyoka, the rarest and most powerful type of empath in existence. 1. You are a living mirror. The true hallmark of a Heyoka is the mirror effect, and it's often why your relationships feel so intense. While a typical empath might just feel your pain and try to comfort you, a Heyoka reflects your energy back at you with such intensity that you can no longer ignore it. Snorts. You don't do this through a conscious choice, it's an energetic reflex. If you sit across from someone who is deeply arrogant but hiding it under a mask of false humility, your presence will naturally draw out a bluntness or a check that forces their ego to surface. If you're around someone who is cruel or manipulative, you might find yourself becoming their worst nightmare. Not because you are a mean person, but because your energy is mimicking their internal truth. You become a living, breathing reflection of their soul. This mirroring is often why people have such polarized reactions to you. Some people will love you instantly because you reflect their light and potential back at them, making them feel seen for the first time. Others, however, will feel an unexplainable irritation or even hatred toward you. They might call you difficult or confrontational, but the reality is that they are simply uncomfortable with the reflection they see when they look at you. You are showing them the parts of themselves they've spent years trying to bury. Your very existence demands a solution to their internal chaos. You don't just identify that a person is off. Your presence acts as a catalyst for their growth, forcing them to either heal their flaws or run away from the truth you represent. This role as a living mirror is both a gift and a heavy burden. It means you rarely get to just hang out without things getting deep or intense. You might notice that even total strangers will strike up a conversation with you, and within 5 minutes start confessing their deepest secrets or crying about a childhood trauma. This happens because your mirror energy bypasses their defenses. They feel an instinctive pull to be honest because your energy doesn't leave room for lies. You provide a space for deep transformational healing simply by standing in your truth, but it requires you to be incredibly grounded. Without that balance, you can easily become exhausted by the sheer volume of shadow work you are performing for everyone else. Understanding that you are a mirror is the first step toward realizing that the chaos you feel from others isn't yours to carry. It's just what you're reflecting back to help them wake up. 2. The compulsive interrupter. If you are a Heyoka, you have likely spent your entire life being corrected for interrupting or being told you need to let people finish. To the average person, this looks like a lack of manners or a big ego, but that couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is that your brain operates on a completely different frequency than most. While a normal conversation moves in a straight line, person A speaks, then person B responds, your mind works like a high-speed processor. When someone starts telling you a story or explaining a problem, you don't just hear their words, you see the entire picture. You see the conclusion, the hidden emotional motive, and the solution all at once, often before they've even finished their first sentence. You aren't trying to be the loudest person in the room. You are simply reacting to an intense download of information that hits you like a lightning bolt. This habit comes from a place of pure, overflowing intuition. For a Heyoka, insights are often fleeting. They are high-energy sparks that need to be shared the moment they arrive. You feel a physical pressure to speak because you know that if you wait 5 minutes for the other person to finish their fluff or small talk, that vital piece of truth might vanish back into the ether. You aren't interrupting to talk about yourself. You're usually interrupting to give them the exact answer or breakthrough they are looking for. It is a natural, innate drive to move toward the truth as fast as possible. You have a low tolerance for unnecessary beating around the bush because your soul is already at the finish line waiting for their words to catch up. Once you realize this is a byproduct of your empathic gift, you can stop feeling guilty about it and start seeing it for what it really is, a rapid-fire connection to a deeper level of understanding. 3. Solving problems in your sleep. While most people go to bed to escape the world, a Heyoka's mind is just getting started. You might wake up feeling physically exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep, and that's because your subconscious never truly clocks out. Because you are constantly absorbing the heavy energies, hidden secrets, and emotional baggage of everyone you encounter throughout the day, your brain has to do massive amounts of data processing while you're out cold. This is what is known as the sleep solution. You don't just dream, you troubleshoot. You take the complex, jagged pieces of a life problem, whether it's yours or someone else's, and your mind works overtime to smooth them out and fit them together. You are essentially a spiritual architect who does your best building in the dark. This is why you'll often go to bed feeling completely overwhelmed by a situation, only to sit up at 3 a.m. with a sudden crystal clear realization. The answer usually arrives as if it were always obvious, leaving you wondering why you were ever stressed in the first place. This gift allows you to bypass the noise of your waking ego and tap directly into your higher wisdom. Your dreams are rarely just random stories. They are often insightful, symbolic classrooms where you learn how to handle the crossroads of your life. If you find yourself frequently waking up with eureka moments or sudden urges to reach out to someone with specific advice, that is your Heyoka power in action. You aren't just a dreamer, you are a nighttime navigator, using the quiet of the sleep state to fix the problems that the rest of the world is too distracted to solve during the day. 4. Visions of the impossible. If you are a Heyoka, you likely carry a secret that you rarely share with anyone else, a deep, unshakable feeling that you possess abilities that defy the standard laws of logic. You frequently find yourself lost in intense fantasies where you aren't just a regular person, but someone with limitless power, superhuman brilliance, or even supernatural influence. To an outsider, this might look like simple daydreaming or a wild imagination, but for you, it feels like a memory of something real. This isn't about being delusional or having a big ego. It is your human mind trying to find a language for the massive, surging internal energy that lives inside your chest. You feel larger than your physical body, and because the modern world doesn't have a manual for being a high-level empath, your brain translates that energetic weight into visions of being a hero, a genius, or a master of the elements. This sense of being meant for something extraordinary is a persistent, haunting theme in your life that never quite goes away, no matter how many times you try to just be normal. Even when you're doing something as mundane as grocery shopping or sitting at a desk, there is a voice in the back of your mind telling you that you are capable of shifting the very fabric of reality. This is because as a Heyoka, your vibration is naturally higher than the status quo. You sense the potential in everything. You see how things could be if the world weren't so stuck in its ways. When you visualize yourself having magical or limitless power, you are actually tapping into your true nature as a spiritual disruptor. You are meant to be a catalyst for change, and those impossible visions are just your soul's way of reminding you that you aren't here to play small or follow the rules. You are a powerhouse of potential, and those fantasies are the blueprint for the impact you're supposed to have on the world. 5. The accidental healer. One of the most exhausting yet beautiful parts of being a Heyoka is your role as an accidental healer. You might notice that people leave even the shortest, most casual conversations with you feeling like they just had a 5-year therapy breakthrough. You could be talking about the weather, a TV show, or what you had for lunch, and somehow the other person walks away feeling lighter, more inspired, and completely transformed. You provide what is known as healthy inspiration simply by existing in their space. Because you are a natural mirror, you are constantly and subconsciously pulling the poison out of the people you talk to and replacing it with clarity. You don't have to try to be a healer. It's an automatic function of your energy. You walk into a room and the healing begins before you even open your mouth. However, this gift comes with a catch. You often take on other people's problems as if they were your own. You don't do this because you want to be a martyr or because you enjoy the drama. You do it because, as a Heyoka, Your empathy is so profound that you literally cannot feel happy if the people in your orbit are drowning in darkness. Their pain feels like static in your own ears. You feel a biological, urgent need to pull them out of the mud because their emotional well-being is tied to your own sense of peace. You will use every ounce of your insight, every bit of your logic, and every spark of your creativity to fix someone else's life, often doing so before you've even addressed your own needs. You are the ultimate frontline worker for the human soul, deploying all your internal resources to make sure the people around you can breathe again. It's a powerful drive that comes from deep within, making you the person everyone relies on when they are at a crossroads, even if you're still figuring out your own path. 6. Walking the opposite path. If you are a Heyoka, your entire life has likely felt like you were swimming upstream, while everyone else is happily floating with the current. This isn't because you are trying to be difficult or edgy. It is a biological and spiritual instinct. In the ancient traditions, the Heyoka was known for doing things backward. They might wear clothes inside out, walk backward into a room, or speak in riddles. In the modern world, this translates into a person who instinctively moves left the moment the rest of society moves right. You don't fit into standard societal boxes because your internal compass is tuned to a completely different frequency. You see the world through a paradigm that is fundamentally different from the normal person. While others are comforted by following the crowd, you feel a deep sense of unease and even wrongness when you find yourself agreeing with the majority. You are designed to be the exception to the rule, the one who questions the, quote, obvious path that everyone else is blindly following. This unique orientation makes you a fascinating person, but it also makes you a prime target for intense arguments and friction. Because you don't settle for secure conclusions just to be agreeable, you often find yourself in the middle of aggressive debates. You aren't being stubborn for the sake of it. You're being honest to the truth, you see. You would much rather be a lone wolf who stands on the right side of history than a sheep in a flock that is heading straight for a cliff. To you, fitting in feels like a betrayal of your soul. This can make it difficult for you to float easily in social circles or corporate environments where groupthink is the standard. People might find your views harsh or your approach too radical, but that's because you are looking at the finish line while they are still stuck at the starting gate. You are here to challenge the orientation of everyone around you, acting as a spiritual course correction for a world that has lost its way. 7. Unstoppable creative force. The creative energy of a Heyoka is not just a hobby or a talent. It is a raw, unstoppable force of nature that borders on the spiritual. You cannot be pocketed, managed, or controlled in a standard 9-to-5 environment. While most people are content to follow a manual and improve the status quo by a few inches, you want to dismantle the entire system and build something better from the ground up. Your mind is a factory of innovations that are often decades ahead of their time. Snorts. You don't just want to do a job. You want to birth something into the world that has never been seen before. This drive comes from so deep within that it often feels like it isn't even yours. It's like a pulse from the universe that uses you as a vessel. When you are in your creative zone, you aren't just working. You are channeling a vision that demands to be made real, no matter how much effort it takes. Because this drive is tied to your spiritual growth, you are incredibly protective of your freedom. The moment you realize a task, a project, or a job no longer aligns with your personal evolution, you are finished. You don't quiet quit or linger for the sake of a paycheck. You leave. No amount of money, no fancy job title, and no level of security can keep you in a place where your innovation is being stifled or your energy is being drained. You have a zero-tolerance policy for stagnant environments because your soul knows that staying in a cage will eventually kill your gift. This makes you a frontliner in any organization that actually values progress, but it also makes you unhireable to anyone who wants a mindless worker. You follow the drive from within with a level of conviction that most people find terrifying. You know that your path isn't dictated by physical rewards, but by the internal call to create, disrupt, and lead the way toward a new development. If you aren't being allowed to innovate, you'd rather have nothing at all than a mediocre something. Being a Heyoka is not a personality trait. It is a spiritual calling that requires immense strength and self-awareness. You have spent your life feeling like an outsider, often burdened by the heavy emotions of others and the frustration of being misunderstood. But once you realize that your backward quote way of seeing the world is actually your greatest strength, everything changes. You are the mirror that forces growth, the disruptor that breaks stagnant cycles, and the healer who brings light to the darkest corners of the human experience. You aren't too much and you aren't broken. You are a rare and vital part of the world's emotional balance, designed to lead people back to their own truth by simply being unapologetically yourself. What matters now is how you choose to use this power. Now that you understand why you interrupt, why you solve problems in your sleep, and why you can't stand to fit in, you can stop apologizing for your nature. Embrace the role of the sacred clown. Stand firm in your intuition and continue to walk the path that feels right to you, even if you're walking it alone. The world doesn't need more people who blend in. It needs Heyokas who are brave enough to stand out and reflect the truth. Trust the drive that comes from within, because that internal fire is the only compass you will ever need to navigate this life. Do you recognize these signs in your own life? If you've spent years wondering why you feel so different from everyone else, you might finally have your answer. We want to hear your story. Have you experienced the mirror effect or the sleep solution? Drop a comment below and share your experiences as a Heyoka empath. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to join our community of deep thinkers and high-level empaths. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an insight into the true power of your soul. Thanks for watching and stay true to your path.